Welcome everybody. Good afternoon. Today is May the 16th. Welcome to another session of business relations. So today we have Srilasya, Sagar, and David. David and Srilasya have attended pre-sessions. Sagar is fairly new. Actually, new. This is the first time, so that's good so that we can tailor the content to whatever people come to the calls for. So, Sagar, since you're the newest one, I'm going to give you the floor and share with us what you were expecting out of this. Did you have expectations? The reason we always start a session that way is so that we could tailor the content of today's session. It's all about business relationships, obviously, but what did you have in mind? What were you expecting to get out of today, Sagar?
So as I look at the flyer, I thought it should be a career guidance, a session, how to network well, how to introduce ourselves to the potential opportunities, and how to discuss what I have done already. So yeah,
Yeah,
uh,
beautiful. So you're in the right place. So when you say to discuss what you have done already, just to give me an idea of, what your level is in outreach, what have you done?
so I'm a graduate student at IIT,
Mhm.
and this is my third semester. My major in finance.
Okay,
I work on campus. I have done an internship in Chicago. It's an was an hybrid internship.
okay.
I got it from a course. So yeah, this is all about me. And right now I'm looking for internships, summer internship.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And are you part of the LinkedIn group?
No, I
Okay,
think so.
so
I haven't
yeah,
joined yet. Yeah.
let's start there. So one of the things that you want to do, I'm going to share it, and then I'm going to go through Srilasya and then David to ask them what their expectations were for today. So what you want to do, Sagar, is you want to go to LinkedIn. Are you on LinkedIn on your computer?
Yeah.
All right,
LinkedIn.
so under LinkedIn, I'm going to open up a new window because I had some windows prepped for you guys. Under LinkedIn, was a bad move. LinkedIn is crazy because it's asking me to sign in, but I'm already signed in. So let's go a roundabout way to do it. So in your search box, Sagar,
Mm-hmm.
I guess the network bandwidth, you want to type it in the search box, Illinois
Okay.
Tech Career Services. You see here on the left, it says Illinois Tech Career Services, like that. On the left-hand side where my cursor is, Illinois Tech Career Services, and then you want to click groups. You see it?
Just a second.
So the reason I bring this up is the material that we're covering is part of it. So were you able to find it?
Yeah, I find it.
All right.
And
So
what
click
about this one, the
groups.
BRS Jet business relation? Should I
I'm
join
going to
this
talk
one?
about that in a second, but that's what I do not want you to join right now.
Okay,
Let's
okay,
start with Illinois Tech Career Services
okay.
so that we move forward. Did you request that?
I guess I'm already part of this group. I
Okay,
thought,
good.
yeah.
Perfect.
Mhm.
So, Srilasya, what were any expectations for today? I know you said you haven't been able to follow up, but what was the next step for you, for example, that you wanted to learn, perhaps?
Uh, for the LinkedIn, I have figured out the ways that I can connect with, but I have issues with the in-person meeting, so the which the session is not about. So for now, I don't have
In
anything regarding LinkedIn.
Okay, in-person meeting, which part specifically? Actually, I like that you mentioned that because people think that it's distinct. It's still about relationships. So whether you do it in person or you do it in LinkedIn, the basic steps are still the same. So let me hear more. When you say you had something about in person, which part about in person were you having quote unquote difficulty with?
Okay, so if we went to an event or any like class or something, like there will be a person who is sitting beside us, so we have some points to talk about, and after we finish we will be like I can't speak after that, like I have some points to talk and then I'll shut my mouth. So I don't want that thing to happen. I don't want the awkwardness in me with
Mhm,
the other person. So
mhm.
how to tackle that?
Very good. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to cover that really shortly. And again, I repeat, the reason we start these sessions by finding out what you guys were expecting out of the call, we can address it during those calls. So what I'm going to do, Srilasha, when we talk about it, is contrast, a solution that's going to apply to both the LinkedIn approach and the in-person approach. So thank you for sharing that issue that you're having. So what about David?
I didn't have any. I didn't have too many expectations
Okay.
coming to this session, but I did attempt a couple of cold calls through LinkedIn,
Okay.
and
So you reached out to some people.
yeah.
Okay. And did they connect with you yet?
Yeah, one person got back to me
Okay.
and we had a pretty good conversation.
Very
Um,
good. Actually, if you don't mind, David, I would like to make that a case study because it really helps when we have new people like Sagar. And then we talk about, what you guys have done, because obviously you're in the spot where Sagar is today. You've kind of taken your baby steps. And usually the best quote unquote teacher is people who have done the steps just a little bit ahead of. So it's very relevant to
yeah,
what we're talking about. So very good. I'm glad that you brought that up. Any
cool.
other questions before I begin the presentation proper? None? Thank you for sharing, guys. Let me just talk about what we wanted to cover for today. Today's session obviously started with this in the LinkedIn group. So, Sagar, you really want to visit this group more regularly because it has information. So I'm sharing it from my view, but Srilasha pointed out that usually LinkedIn mixes it up. I noticed it because I have access to the career services LinkedIn group, and I noticed that it is not chronologically arranged. They mix up what's in the group, but this is the view from like me, for example. Um, so we cover information regularly. We're talking about today's meeting. We share information about people that you want to connect with. So when we have a post like you're seeing on the screen with Narendra, Narendra was in your shoes about 2, 3 years ago, learning the information about business relations, but now he has a job as a senior data engineer. So when you guys, the upcoming students, connect with them, they know exactly what's going on. And since they just went through the steps just before you, they are very likely to connect with you, help you. You can ask them questions. Plus, to help them, if you happen to be a data engineer, for example, Narendra's insight is now very good in your specific journey. So we do all sorts of different posts whenever we have people that came through career services and are now successfully employed. We share their information on purpose so that you get to practice what we talk about. So Sagar, when you go to this group, we have a professional development boot camp in person next Wednesday, May 21st at the MTCC Ballroom. So you have all sorts of information. But the reason I bring this up is you want to plug into this group. And the most important thing also that you want to go to is what's called the index. So all you have to do to find the index is just to scroll to the previous content. As you're seeing on the screen, I have the index. I have one instance. I have another instance above it. We post it on all the posts. I forgot to do it for that
I
one,
guess
but
I have registered for the boot camp.
perfect.
We got the invite on Handshake or our email, so I
Yes.
registered. Yeah.
And the reason I bring this up, that it's also in the LinkedIn group, and I wanted to point out the index that you're seeing. So the index that you see, Sagar, a lot of people without this explanation think like, what do I need it for? So when you click the link, it shows you at a glance what the different topics are that you have resources to. We're talking about business relations today. That's a popular topic. International, there's LinkedIn, and one of the most popular ones is resume. So just for kicks for today, I'm just going to click on business relations. And the document that you see, Sagar, used to be a collection of links that was follow-up material to individual appointments of students at Career Services. However, once we started sharing this information, we had to make it an index, right? So to make an index without a whole lot of work, is, it's all in this one link, but it's not very elegant, so to speak, because we didn't want to spend a lot of time here. It's really the content that you need. So to make the topic, we just put a hashtag in front of it. So if you're looking for any topic, you go Control F or Command F and you do hashtag and then the topic. So for example, I'm looking for resume. So I go to hashtag resume and you have all the content about resume, et cetera, et cetera. We're talking about business relations today. So hashtag business. Relations, and you see the section that talks about business relations. So I'm going to come to this in a second, but let's go back to the share that we talked about so far. We said that, do you agree or disagree with this statement? Sagar, David, Srilasya, you don't
Yeah, I
control
agree.
job openings.
Yeah, I agree. Like we don't control job openings. Like we never know like when job posting will be happen. So
Exactly. So that's why we
what-
have a session like today, because though you don't control job openings, you control the quantity and the quality of business relationships. However, the usual problem that students have, actually, it's not just students. I've been working on this material forever, have been in the professional world forever. Part of the reason that this came about, that came to my attention as an area of focus, is I teach at a community college. I was at an event and I said, let's connect. And I bring up my LinkedIn and they looked at me like I was crazy. They weren't using LinkedIn. And I was thinking to myself, we are the people who are teaching the next workforce, and we're not even using LinkedIn. So we're not taking advantage of a tool that's very readily available. So you see the importance of why we talk about this, Sagar. Sagar disappeared?
now I'm here.
Okay. So do you see the importance of this? Sagar?
What was your question again?
I
Like what
said,
would
do you see the importance of creating and nurturing business relationships?
I think so, yes. Uh, because if we have a good network or relation with the people, and if they find an opportunity, and we can get that opportunity if we have a good relationship to that person.
Okay, very good. I like how you said if you have a good relationship.
Yeah,
So just because you're connected to somebody doesn't mean you have a good relationship with a person, right?
yeah,
So
exactly.
that's part of what we're talking about today. So what I'm showing you on the screen is a student, Mohammed Wasim, was at Illinois Tech also, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. He now works for Molson Coors, data engineer. So he had this post a month ago, and he said that struggling to get notice in your job search. And he specifically states, as an international student, he said, number one, use LinkedIn search tool. That's just finding where the jobs are. Guess what he says in the second one? He says, save the post, don't just like it. This has direct implication to business relationship, where he says, save a post on LinkedIn, don't just like it. And he says, by saving a post, you signal to LinkedIn that you're interested. While not a guarantee, this could lead to a similar post popping up in your feed for more opportunities. What is another application of saving the post? When he says, don't like it, where do you think Muhammad is coming from? Anybody?
Maybe like by liking the post, we don't like it doesn't like many people will like the post or react the post, but not everybody save the post. So we can again go back and check what we have saved, and based on that we can start improving further.
Okay, so what's a business relations application of a post? Srilasha, how would you use it instead? Aside from saving it, actually, Wasim went a different direction here. I thought he was talking
Um,
about
for the
not
post,
liking.
maybe we can repost and give our thoughts to stand out.
Okay, very good. So that's one way you can repost it and then to put your thoughts. And then the person, the original poster, if they see that you posted it, you kind of gain brownie points with them. So you're visible. Another way to do it is to comment on that post and don't just comment saying comment for better reach or just saying nice post. When you reply and make a comment, you should make something that's very thoughtful and should engage the person whose post you're sharing as part of the strategy. So Sagar, why is it very important to say something very specifically to catch their attention and not just say great post?
Because otherwise we will fall in general category
Very
and
good.
a lot of people will ignore it like it's a neutral or general comment. if we
Yes.
if we write something specifically,
Hmm.
then the personal that person will give some attention that, and he or she will like that, like we have read that post completely. Otherwise,
Hmm.
like many times we just for the great reach we just type the basic comments. And
Yes.
also in this step too, he is trying to say that our
No, I don't
algorithm
want you to
will,
comment on that. I'm directing the call, so please answer my question because some of this is not related.
yeah,
So let's go with a post that
yeah,
you either reshare or you comment very thoughtfully. Okay, so I like
yeah,
what you shared so far. What's the
yeah,
next level of what you just shared? When you comment, you said that it catches the attention, but I want to take it a step further that aside from catching their attention, if you put something thoughtfully, you can actually start a quote unquote dialogue with that person. So if you put something strategic in your comment where you perhaps ask them a question, they're now more engaged than just saying, oh, that's nice. Sagar commented on my post. If you actually put something thoughtful that kind of requires an answer from them, then you become strategic and you actually engage who I like to call your target, so to speak, the
right,
person who posted. So does that make sense?
yeah.
Okay, very good.
So you're trying to
So
say it should be an open-ended conversation on the post, so we can have a conversation on that.
you could if you wanted to. The
Okay.
whole idea is you're getting on the radar of
Mhm.
your target so that they'd be like, you're not just a name in the crowd now. You're not just a face who raised your hand
Yeah,
or happened to have commented. They'd be like, oh, that Sagar guy, he actually said something very meaningful. And then that's how you start opening these business relationships. Does it make sense?
yeah, that makes sense.
Lasia had something to share.
Uh, yes, sir. So recently, one thing happened to me is I have listened to a podcast that is related to AI and design, which I'm interested in. So I have listened the entire podcast and made my notes and make it into a PDF, and then I have posted it. The person who done the podcast, I instead of connecting with him, I followed him. So. And like I have posted the like PDF, and he sent the connection request to me. So things like this will make us to stand out with the crowd. That's something that I want to share.
Very good. So Srilasya obviously took it to the next level and to the point that we were making earlier, Sagar, she's not just a face in the crowd now who just merely liked or just merely said nice share. You saw the interaction that she created.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
part of why we have these calls is really in a few words to summarize what we're doing is really getting on their radar to get noticed so that you can start this business relationship with that person. Make
mhm,
sense?
makes sense.
Very good. Welcome, Hurijuta. Uh, we ask everybody that you see on the screen Welcome to the call. We asked you guys what specifically you were expecting to get out of this, so I can specifically address that since you so nicely took the time to join us. So, Rijuta, why was it? What were you expecting, or why are you even on this call?
Hi, Bernie. Nice to see you again.
Good to see you. Well,
Yeah,
I don't see you because you're not on camera, but
yeah, there's something off with my front
that's
camera,
fine.
actually. Yeah, I'm so sorry. Yeah. So yeah, I just joined to, get to know about the tricks on how to not just connect to people, but to maintain the relationships so that, we can help each other and build and grow together. So at times we do connect to people randomly on LinkedIn via posts or DMs, but it gets tricky to maintain those relationships further. So it's like the consistency, how to get there with the consistency is what I'm looking for.
Very good. Thank you for sharing that. And I do have an example to that point to help you move forward with that, Rijuta. So I'm assuming that based on what you shared, you've started creating relationships, but where you get stuck is how do you maintain or even make that business relations tighter with the
Right.
person that you're connected to. Good. Thank you for sharing that. So from what folks have learned so far, did David or Srilasya have any things to share with what Rijuta just shared? Anything along those lines? Or not really? I can cover it and then you guys can join in the conversation.
You start, sir. We'll join.
Okay. I just was thinking if you had that. So let's go to. So, Rijita, we were just talking about Mohammed Wasim. He used to be a student here at Illinois Tech, and one of the posts the reason I'm sharing this is some of the steps that he's talking about here, I mean, are all steps of business relations. So, incidentally, a little plug, um, Mohammed Wasim actually handled one of the business relations calls about 2 years ago because I guess we used to have these weekly and I wasn't available that day that we had the call and he so kindly volunteered. So you can find that in our library of recordings and you will see the Wasim episode for business relations. So the next thing that I wanted to point out where he said, reach out to the poster. So I go back, Sagar, to the discussion that we had earlier. You can start engaging them because what you essentially did is Wasim step 4. You essentially reached out to the poster. You just did it under comments. So what Wasim is saying here, if you didn't have that interaction like we just suggested for this call, in that you start a dialogue in the comment section of their post, you could also reach out to them. And that's what Rijuta was saying also earlier, that she reached out to some folks and then she got stuck in the following steps. So step 5, Wasim kind of says that you connect to the other employees in the company. I'll talk about this and that to Rijuta's point, where she was saying sometimes the random connections. The reason you're being taught business relations is so that you become more strategic and you become more directed in your outreach. Usually, outreach to companies is based on who had the job openings and which companies I applied to. So I can see the randomness relative to the comment of Rijuta in that it's usually connections that are not strategic. So part of what you're being taught with business relations is what if instead of just reaching out to people based on the job openings, what if you just think of the companies yourself? Let's just say you wanted to work for Google and then you wanted to work for Amazon. So I have those two companies in my target list, and then I start listing companies in that. I start listing employees in those companies that we can connect with. Okay, any questions about that point? So the last piece that Wasim says here that I will cover relative to our discussion is to say follow up, and that's exactly what Rituja was saying earlier. So let me go to the next section that I wanted to cover. Under hashtag business relations in the index, Rijuta, you're familiar with hashtag business relations, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, very good. So under hashtag business relations, Sagar, since you're newer to this, there are 2 recordings similar to what we have. If you wanted to review what we covered today, the first bullet says there's an intro to recording, or this was actually a session that was part of C-Suite. You see this section that says 106 applications. This is a success story of somebody who used information from career services. This particular student applied to, put in 106 applications. They got 15 offers to come in for an interview, and out of the 15 offers, he got 12 internship offers. So I bring that up to let you know that the recording that I'm alluding to, The Power of Business Relationships, is directly under that success story. So also, Sagar, if I went back to hashtag business relations, if you notice the third bullet, it says connect cold, connect practice, and connect messaging. Since you're newer, Sagar, you want to focus on connect cold. And then to
Right.
practice what you learn in Connect Cold, you get to practice with some people we've identified. And then when you're a little bit more elegant in the process, like Srilasya, David, and Trijuta, like she was saying that she didn't know what to do, what's the next step? Connect messaging actually gives you strategies as to how to take the awkwardness of the business relationship. Okay, so we essentially hold your hand. Those 3 sections that I talked about, Connect Code, Connect Practice, and Connect Messaging, are actually groups of links. There's the Connect Messaging for Prijita, and there is Connect Code for Sagar. And your Correct Practice, you have all these people. We identified 20 people that you can practice with what we're sharing. Questions so far?
All clear. So
All
far, it's
clear?
good. Yeah.
Good. So now I have a question for you, Sagar,
Mhm.
on the screen. So let me give you a background to the information that you're seeing. We're kind of implying that if you're reaching out to a bigger company who just posted a job, the example that I'm sharing on the screen, Nithya is a data science manager at Google who just posted a job. And
Mhm.
then this particular student wrote this message, but I am using it as an example to say it's not a very effective message. Why do you think it's not effective, Sagar? And even Rijuta, if you want to share. Srilasi and David kind of went over this the last session that we had. What do you think, Sagar? Why is it not
I,
effective?
I guess it was her first message to the employer,
Mhm.
and she should start a introductory message and not ask about that role. Otherwise, the employer get a lot of message like that.
Very
And
good.
yeah,
They
and
get a
there
lot
are
of messages like
yeah,
this.
yeah,
So,
and everyone ask the employer and how can I contribute to this role? I have that much of experience.
mhm.
Instead of that, I should go with the basic message like introduce myself and how's your time at this company, and what tools or skills you are using so far to get successful in this role. So
Okay,
ask more about them first, so they
very
can
good.
because people like to share about themselves a lot. It's natural.
Correct.
Yeah.
Very good. Sagar, you're actually one in like 100 students who say talk about them instead of yourself. Majority
Yeah.
of people, 99 students, would talk about themselves. And that's obviously, it's like the natural thing to do. But you discovered the point that if you want to stand out, one of the ways to stand out is don't talk about you first, talk about them. So good job.
Yeah. Thank you.
So let me get rid of this one. Let's go back to the examples. Any comments about that so far? Or shares? So let's go to Connect Cold 1. Let me show some examples of how you connect to them. An obvious one to do, Sagar, is to, you kind of said you would introduce yourself. I go even beyond that. And the reason I go beyond that is you're being taught design principles for messaging. The first check mark says, is it short? Number two, is it worded to expect a response? Part of what you're expecting when you talk about them is because you're talking about them, you're expecting them to say something. Okay, so that's check mark number two. You word something to explicitly elicit a response from the other party. And then the last one, we didn't talk about it in the previous message, but the last statement in that message was asking for 15 minutes of their time. So take a look at the message, Sagar.
Yeah.
I'm just saying this happened to be around 4th of July. I just said, hi, Eden, and then happy 4th. So I designed this very specifically because I'm expecting her to say happy 4th of July back. Make sense?
Yeah, makes sense.
What's your first reaction?
If I get a message like that, I see a person saying hello and wishing me a day. So it's
You
very
would
basic,
respond
and
back.
yeah, and
Okay.
I'm going to reply him or her.
And you would also say happy 4th, right?
Yeah,
So you see how it was quite strategic, right? It was
yeah,
designed to explicitly expect a response. So my computer is really, really slow. Let's see if killing the camera might help. So under a hashtag business relations, and then further down, let's go to connect call. So I'm going to address Rijuta what do I say next? All right. So Sagar, you can go through all the connect code, but I'm going to pick somebody specifically whose his name is Steve Dalton. Steve Dalton is the author of the book, The 2-Hour Job Search.
okay.
And if you take a look at the message, what are you observing in the message sequence, Sagar and Rijuta? So if you notice, at 5:57 p.m., Bernie says, hey, Steve, saw your book in my boss's office, just read a summary. And then he immediately replied, actually. And do you think I designed what I said to get a response, Sagar and Rijuta?
Yes, absolutely.
So it was very
Yeah,
specific, right? And
Yeah.
then you notice that he goes like the 2-hour job search. And if you notice, he even said more than I did.
yeah,
You guys noticing that?
Right.
yeah,
So I'm going to address what Rijuta was talking about. I'm going to show you conversations with Steve Dalton. How you open and close it. And I want to address what Rijuta was saying earlier. What do I say next? And that's what I was saying earlier, where you have the connect messaging. Those are all messages that talk about what to say next. So you see this on the screen. The first thing that I said, I take it all the way back to, hey, Steve, saw your book in my boss's office. Actually, let's do this. I'm gonna make the screen bigger for you guys. If I can go to Dalton, and then I go to my messages to Dalton. So we can address Rijuta's question. Oh, it didn't help. It's the same small window. Which
uh,
book?
with the cross sign, there's a two arrows. If you click on that, I guess it will work.
This one?
Yeah,
No, it made it
no,
smaller actually.
or you can
Click
go
on
to the
messaging.
messaging.
This one? Not gonna make it bigger.
No. In the navigation bar, like you can see my network and then notifications there. That section.
Besides the notification, there is a tab, messaging. Yeah,
In the sidebar, this one
no,
in the
no,
bottom
At the
right.
on the
top,
on
at
the
the
on
very
the
top.
on the top. Besides the notification,
Yes.
can you see the notification?
I see notifications.
Yeah,
What
You
about
yeah.
it?
can, yeah. Besides
Messaging.
that, the messaging.
towards left side
Yeah.
message.
What about it?
Yeah, if you can click that, you will able to see the bigger screen.
Oh. No, it's still small. Is this the bigger screen that you guys are talking about?
Yes.
No,
Yeah.
it's the same screen. Yeah. And because of the slowness, we just delayed ourselves 10 more hours. So all right. So he said, which book? Okay, back to Rijuta. This is July of 2022.
Yeah.
And then we stopped 2 hour, and then he said the OG, and then I said the OG. If you guys are noticing, I look like I'm texting whenever I'm conversing with somebody on purpose. I speak in broken sentences, kind of like small book, because everybody's busy, right? That is by design. Okay. And then he goes, the original, my first book. And then, woohoo. And then I said 2012. I was trying to be strategic by saying 2012 so that he would react and say, yeah, you're right. That was a long time ago because this was in 2022. But he obviously didn't say anything. So, Rijuta, to your point that sometimes the conversation dies, I had a
Yeah.
plan, but it didn't work. So the conversation died. I started this conversation in July. And guess what happens in October? Bernie Floresca sends another message, and I found an opportunity to get on his radar again. So I said, hey, Steve, check this out. Info from Career Services request for our biomedical engineering department. And then I showed what the students said. They requested him. And then I asked them, and I said, any resources I can share with them. So why do you think I was effective this time? Sagar and Hrijuta. You don't know why I
I
was
guess
effective?
yeah, you sent him a reminder that you are still interested to in this conversation, and you ask his consent if you can share his book with the students or the
No,
summary with the
no,
students.
that's not what I said. Read it more
Okay.
carefully. I said, check this out for the career services request from our department. I'm not asking for any consent. I'm giving him information
Okay.
saying that check out the information from our department. And then the information that I happen to be share happens to be about his book.
I
I
think
said, yes, go ahead, Krijuta.
the fact that his book is receiving this good review is
Correct.
something that catches his eye here.
So again, you guys see how I'm being strategic? And to the point that you made earlier, Sagar, I'm talking about him every time I reach
Yeah.
out to him. It's always about him. It's
Yeah.
how I get his attention, right? And then guess what? Do I look like I have a long message this time? Not really, because take a look at what he sends. He sends an even longer message than I sent. So you see how this is strategic?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Rijuta, you said you had a problem with how to create something else. What did you just learn?
Yeah, to make it about them and get the conversation in this direction where, it makes them feel good about their work
Very good.
and recognized. Yeah.
So do you still get stuck? Not really, right? You have all sorts of opportunities to talk about them. Just go to their profile, see what they posted, or go through their background, see if there's something you can compliment them on. And then if you want to reopen the conversation, what you're being taught is compliment is one of the strategies that you can use to reopen a closed conversation. Make sense?
Right. Yes. Thank you.
Question. Sure. And then this was in October. And take a look at this. Bernie Floresca actually was a jerk here because Steve Dalton gave me an answer. I didn't even say thank you. So don't do that, okay? If you're trying to create a business relationship, at least say thank you when they give you information. But this is the point that we were saying earlier. Everybody gets busy. if I wanted to, I could have fixed this up. Even when I realized it in May, I could have opened up the message and said, my apologies for being such a jerk. I didn't even thank you for the message that you sent out. And then kind of put a smiley face, just making it light conversation. You see, Rijuta, how I give you
Yeah.
another idea of how to reopen the conversation.
Right.
Okay. And then
Mm.
that was October. Guess what I did in May? Hey, Steve, I just saw you featured with Brad Minton, somebody else on LinkedIn. And then it was the beginning of the new month. And I said, Happy May. You see how this is all designed to get him to say something. And then he's like, yeah, thanks for checking it out. I didn't respond to it on the same day. But again, a few days pass, Rijuta. May 15th, I reopened it again. And here is actually a very good turning point for you guys. So when you guys, the reason you guys reach out to people is because you're looking for a job, right? So sometimes one of the questions that we get from students is, great, we're creating a relationship, but whenever I start talking about myself, to Sagar's point earlier, that we start the conversation about them to get them interested. But it's kind of like your question also, Rijuta, right? And that you don't know
Yeah.
what to say next. And then what I'm bringing to the forefront actually is more strategic. The reason I connected with them was I eventually want to have a conversation about a job in their company. So you see this part here, I wasn't looking for a job with Steve, but I'm suggesting that this is a very good transition to what you need. In your cases, you need a job. I needed something else from Steve, and I'm suggesting that you could say, hey, Steve, is it okay to get your opinion? And if you go to the messages, under connect messaging, you see connect messaging. This is like giving you all sorts of ideas of how to reopen a conversation. You see this part here where it says transition. What I just showed you with Steve Dalton, I use it a lot actually when I do my outreach, because I use this outreach for my business as well. I reach out to local businesses for my personal, you guys are looking for jobs. I'm looking for business with my business. So if you take a look at this example that I give here, just like Steve Dalton, actually, let's see what I said here. Message X is the transition. I pointed that out to you guys where you say, is it okay to ask a question? So message X, is it okay to ask a question? And then start here. It's rhetorical. I mean, obviously, if you're going back and forth, it's okay to ask a question, but I specifically say that so that I'm transitioning the conversation with the person. And so the response that I'm expecting is for them to say, of course, right? And then you could have your message now. In this case, the transition was, I'm a business relations strategist at school, and I volunteered with a team that calls on companies and invites them. Our specific purpose when I was teaching this to this group of students was we were inviting people at companies to join the career fair. However, I'm saying that for your purposes, for for looking for a job, is you could say, is it okay to ask a question? And when they say yes, you know what your next question is, Rijuta, Sagar, Srilasya, or David? What do you think the next question is to that?
After asking, like, is it okay to ask a question if they agreed, and then what about us? That's what you're asking about. Sir.
Yeah. What would you say to transition it to you? What you need now? So the best time to do this is when you feel and a relationship has been established. Okay.
Okay.
So all this time we talked about open the door, create a relationship, talk about them, blah, blah, blah. At some point, I mean, there was a reason you wanted to connect with them, was you wanted a job, right? So to transition, you say, is it okay to ask a question? And when they say yes, what do you say now, David? Any idea?
Would it kind of be related to asking for that favor?
Like
Some
what? Okay, I'll give you an easy one. So you say, is it okay to ask a question? They say yes. The transition for job search is very easy. Does your company have a referral program? You see how easy that is? If they say yes, beautiful, because now they will help you. Usually when companies have referral programs, they get incentivized for recommending somebody, because if you stay at their company for a few months or whatever, their stipulation, they get monetary compensation.
Yeah.
So if they say yes, you just found somebody who will help you. If they say no, the cat is now out of the bag. It's very obvious that you're also interested, aside from making friends with them, it's very obvious that you're also obviously looking for help. And they will have known this at one point just by looking at your profile. Okay. But now we're doing this very specifically so the conversation can now shift to you and your job. Questions? No questions?
All clear.
I just noticed the time. We're kind of like there. So I want to answer one last question that was Srilasya, unless you guys had any questions about what we covered so far. So what we covered so far is, how do I open up a conversation? Okay. How do I create a relationship? And part of what we talked about is talk about them a whole lot more, because when you talk about them, there's bound to be a back and forth, right? So that's how you create relationships. The reason we do this, I always bring it back to your best friend. I would assert that your best friend, as it was at one point, a stranger to you. How did you become best friends? There had to be a back and forth of relationship stuff. On LinkedIn, it's conversation. In person, you could say, maybe Srilasha was in my class. I just walked by MTCC. People were handing out candy. I took an extra piece, and then she was in the classroom with Anna, for example, that she wanted to create a business relationship with, and she goes like, "Here, Anna, I got a piece of candy for you." So you see what happens in person. What would be the equivalent of LinkedIn? The piece of candy could be, "Hey, David, I saw this article that relates to our last discussion the last time. I'm sharing this with you now, and I thought about you when I read it." So it's kind of like giving candy also. So this is what I'm saying, Srilasha. There's certain things that you do in person that are kind of similar to what you do in LinkedIn, right? So explain your question again earlier, the situation in person.
Yeah, so like there will be people sitting beside us and we want to talk with them. Like we have couple of points that we have in our mind, and after finishing those points, I'll be shut. I don't speak anything afterwards. So I have again have to think, like I have to. There's some gap that I don't want to be happening between the me and the other person. So it seemed like Rituja asked how to follow up in LinkedIn, and I'm asking for in person.
So in person, tell me about this person. Are they a professional? Are they another student? What's this specific example?
They are students.
Okay,
Uh,
if they're students, here's a very easy continuation of the conversation with them. Okay, are you guys getting
but
anything out of
I find it easy for me to talk with professionals than with students.
Yeah.
That is what I feel.
Here, I'll give you an easy one. So Srilasya, have you gotten anything out of these sessions that you're attending?
uh, yeah, like by attending these sessions I got to know how I can connect with people in LinkedIn, and I have figured out how to start small talk,
Yeah,
which I have done to a couple of students, and they are
yeah,
still my friends right now.
yeah. So
So
that's a
I
very
have.
easy thing to do, right? So let's say David was my target. So David, he knows me, I'm Bernie, we're in the same class, and then I get stuck. I don't know what to say next. I'd be like, "Hey David, have you heard of the career services group on LinkedIn?" He'll either go yes or no. If he goes yes, then you have to go another route. If he says no, start talking about what you got out of it so that he's interested. But you see how I switch the conversation and you have something else to talk about. Sagar is smiling. I
Yeah,
think a
that's like
light bulb just went on. I
yeah,
could see the light bulb, Sagar.
yeah. That's a good thing to start a conversation. If you know something, and if other person is also aware of it, he can share his or her experience. And if he doesn't aware of that thing, you can talk about it.
Yes.
This is a perfect
So
small talk. Yeah.
let me take that further with professionals who are out there. The most obvious people that you guys connect to are alum at our university. Okay. So let's just say Rijuta again was having this awkwardness where she doesn't know what to say next. Let's just assume that she was talking to an alum who has the same major as her. She could say, have you heard of the career services group? Question mark. So you see how it was a transition again. She doesn't have to have a whole lot of things to say. It was a very pointed question that is going to open up a new can of worms and continue the conversation. Did you get that, Prijita?
Yes. I had a small question.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes we don't really have that time to build a relationship and, then get in working with each other. And we just have just maybe one or two conversations sort of time. So in that case, what should be the crisp and clear message and that would potentially get that could potentially be responded to, like something crisp and clear.
I got the question. Yes, I got it. You're not the only person in that boat. As a matter of fact, Wasim, who I shared earlier, when I started talking to him about business relations, he already knew the information. Plus, he got lucky because one of his cold outreaches initiated a cold call with him.
Mm-hmm.
It was like the total opposite of what's going. So Wasim, when he was learning this information, he wasn't necessarily, he wasn't convinced that the best way to do it. He's like, oh, I don't need to create a relationship because he got lucky. A VP of a company said, hey, let's get on a cold call. So in his mind, in his growth, in his journey, in the professional case, was like, oh, I don't need it. I got this connection. But he found out obviously that that's not the normal way. So in the interest of time, I'm going to share it in the business relations group. So that was the group that you were talking about earlier, Sagar. Rijuta, are you part of the BRS chat group?
Yeah, I did send out a request. I don't know if you
Okay,
accepted. Yeah.
I'm going to accept it after this call. Sagar, you want to join
Okay.
that? Because the answer to Rijuta's question is I'm going to flavor it with what worked for Wasim. Wasim's approach back then was he was reaching out a lot on email. And I'm going to say a few words about what he said, but we're going to answer that, Rijuta. And actually, let's continue this conversation in the LinkedIn group, in that group, BRS chat. Okay. I'm going to put a
Okay.
few things, and then you guys can put in the comments if you had any questions so we can go back and forth and involve more people in that question. So it's both in the interest of time, Rijuta, and I wanted to continue it, obviously. So we're going to
Yeah.
the group. All right. Final questions, guys? I see David
I can
had to
just
leave.
I can make like 2 minutes thing. So for the Hirja, like she is a student, like she is a part of like cybersecurity, which she needs to deal with many stuff in according to her academics. So I guess for all students, we have to make a time schedule just for connecting, and based on that, you have to spend even 10 minutes in your entire day and do whatever like email connecting or LinkedIn connecting, and that really helps. And they also understand that you don't have like you don't be on online all the time, so it's fine if you give late reply, but make it consistent to like what whom you are connecting with, and that really helps.
Cool, thank you. Brigitte,
Thank you,
questions?
Lasya.
Very good, thank you. Sagar?
Yeah, I want to ask like how frequently these type of session happen every week or because trust
Yeah,
me,
when we
I
have
just
when we had the strategist, we did it weekly. So I guess it looks like there's more interest. We can hold it every Friday at noon for now. And the contact point, Srilasya has graciously offered to coordinate some of this.
yeah,
So if you guys would like a follow-up, let's do it next Friday, same time.
yeah,
Very
sounds
good.
interesting. And I saw Sri Lasia's post and I reached out her and she shared the link. So thanks to her. And she's
Yes, thank
very
you, Srilasya.
Thank you for joining.
yeah, She just joined IIT and she's very active. I can see her
Yeah.
post like every other day. She share her post about the experiences she has. So yeah, that's a good thing to see.
Actually, you want to share a few words about that, Srilasya? Srilasya is actually being strategic. So
Yeah,
share the strategy.
it seems like. So I
Share
really
the
want to
strategy.
appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So one of the advantage for me is when I joined the college, I straightly went to the career service department, and based on their resources that I've received, I have started learning and applying them. And I wanted to share those things to people like me who are students like me, and that makes us as a community, and we will get a good results.
So do you see how she's applying the information, Sagar? And then she's using it actually as outreach. And then if she shares it as content, and you will see Wasim posted one of these things. The reason I don't talk about sharing content a lot with students is during the year, you guys are very busy. You really don't have time to create content. However, Srilasa was very strategic in that she's learning the stuff anyway for her purposes. So instead of quote unquote wasting that time, she's taking the opportunity to use that as content. And so to your point, Sagar, you notice that she was very active, et cetera,
Yeah,
et cetera. That's
yeah,
the same thing that you want, the impression that you want to give employers. And Srilasha is obviously on her way to doing that. As she's learning, she's sharing that on LinkedIn as her content.
yes,
And then
yes.
some of these employers would be like, oh, wow, she's a student and she's doing this. She's helping other students. So guess what? She's being elevated because of the work that she's doing. So I want to be like Srilasha when I grow up. Any other comments, guys? No comments? Thank you so much for attending today's session.
Yeah,
We will see you
Thank
next
you.
Friday. And then watch for the recording that will be posted in the LinkedIn group shortly. And then the answer to Rijuta's question, that's going to be in the BRS chat group. So thank you,
sure.
everyone.
I've sent the request to VRS chat.
Yeah, I'm going to approve it right now.
Okay, thank you.
All right, bye, guys.
You have a
Bye.
great
Thank you.
weekend.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.